All right, so let's get going. This is the newest Mojave OS X, and so far I've had pretty good luck with it. I'm going to go ahead and open up Final Cut for the very first time and see what we have here. So if you've just purchased this, you've got it downloaded, you're excited to use it, please watch the tutorial first. I'll walk you through everything step by step. So this is version 10.4.4. I'm sure the last version is pretty close to this, and this should be, the basics for a while. It's asking if I would like to access my photos. I'm going to put OK. And it gives me a list of some of the new features. If you don't know anything about it, you won't know about the old features, but there are some pretty cool things in this new update. So it talks a little bit about workflow extensions, batch share, video noise reduction, and timecode window. So hit OK. All right, and that opens us to this entire interface. Let's take a minute and look at the interface. I think it's important to understand what it is and how it works. What it did was, behind the scenes there, I don't know that it always did this, but it's doing this on the newer versions. It's creating a few things for you automatically. Well, the problem with that is that then you might not know how to create them. So therefore, I'm going to go back and I'm going to create those for you. So what it's created here is it's created a library, is this, and then an event within that library. And it has not created a project yet. You could click here for new project and then it would show up. The first thing I want to look at is this particular screen is broken down into basically 4 areas right now. It looks super simple, and a lot of people, by looking at this and initially after they've used other softwares, are thinking, oh, there's just not much to this. This is basically iMovie. It is definitely not iMovie. There is a lot going on here. They've made the interface super simple so that it's easy to follow. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make this full screen. And now that I'm here, I'm going to look at several different things, okay? This area here is the browser, all right? In this browser, there are other tools that I will talk about later, but for right now, just know that all of your sound and all of your titles and generators are right here in this browser. This is also where your media will go when you have imported media. And it's where you store your libraries, your events, and your projects. It's very important to have this organized and know where it's at. The next part here is going to be your viewer. Your viewer is what you'll look at when you're either scanning through or skimming your media, or you're looking through your timeline, which I'll go over here in a minute. Next to the viewer, over here is your inspector. Okay, the inspector can be opened and closed by clicking this button, and the inspector gives you the metadata for your video or clips, and it also is the place where you can add effects, adjust those effects, and change durations and type in your titles. There's a lot of things that happen in this general area. So which leaves us with this bottom part down here, which is your timeline. Okay, it doesn't look much like a timeline right now, but here in a few minutes I'm going to show you how to create libraries, events, and projects, and it'll look more like a timeline at that point. Just for the sake of this video only, I'm going to go ahead and just delete what they created for us here. I'm going to close the library, and so now I have no libraries. All right, the first thing I want to do is I want to create a library. So I'm going to go to File, New, and Library. And so for this one, I'm just going to call this FCPX tutorial. Maybe I can type it. Okay, and I want to save that for right now in my movies folder. That seems like a safe place to save it. So I'll do that. And what happens is it immediately makes 2 things. Well, 3 things if you count the library itself. It's made the library, and then it makes the event. Well, in my event, it automatically labels it with the date. You can change that by simply clicking it again and changing it. But for this particular one, I think this date works fine. If, however, you wanted to make your event or add an event, you would just go to File, New, Event, and I might change this one and just put, again, having trouble with that word, tutorial. And I'm going to save that within the library of FCPX tutorial. And right here, I could go ahead and create the project, or I can just click OK and have the tutorial. So I no longer want this. I'll just right click and I'll move this event to trash. Okay, so now I have tutorial. With tutorial selected, I then will make a project. And you can have multiple events in the same library, and you can have multiple projects in the same event, but for this one we're just going to make one. So I'm going to go to File, New, and Project. And now in this one, I'm just going to call this Tutorial 1. That seems to work just fine. All right, now that I have a project, it brings up my timeline, and I can see where that's at. A few things to think about while we're making these is the input data that we want to use, okay? So if I were to go into this, I can see where things are being stored, okay? So when we bring data in, I've not brought any in yet, and so I want to make sure that I'm storing it in the right location. A quick way to check that you have the right storage information is you go to Final Cut and then down to Preferences. And on the Import button, you can see that there's a couple of things here. And these are very important. Even if you're just a beginner, this is important that you know this. And I'm not going to go into any great detail for these beginner tutorials, but I do want to make sure that I point out this one thing. We want to either copy to library storage location, or we want to leave files in place. This matters really only for the fact of data storage and how large files can be. If you are making a large project and you are very neat with your files and you know that you're not going to move them around on your desktop or on any input device that you may have, whether it's an external hard drive or an SD card or something like that, you can leave the files in place. It will make shortcuts from Final Cut to find that file later. But if you know that you might want to even move this and easily move it all in an all-in-one package, which will cause a little bit more storage area, you can use the copy to library storage, which is the default. It's just really up to you depending on how you want to do that. Just know that if you move something once you've left it in place and you open up Final Cut and it has a red box there that says missing, you're going to have to locate that yourself. And sometimes that's very difficult. So I would say for the beginner, leave it in place and just use up more storage. You'll get some practice with this later, but for right now, we're going to use copy to library storage location. That way all of it is in one nice neat package. Exit out of that. And then I have to click on here, and then I'm looking at modify settings, and I'm going to store everything in the library, in the library, in the library, and all of that is being stored in the movies folder that we selected when we started. So I don't have anything else to really look at here, and so the inspector looks pretty good. All right, so then back down, tutorials, and this is our project, which is, as of right now, quite empty.